All right, settle in, grab a drink, because we're about to have a real talk. No sugarcoating, no fluffy stuff. A lot of people ask me, what is the secret to making serious money, building a life that actually feels expansive? And when I tell them the truth, the raw, unfiltered truth, they usually look at me like I'm crazy. They don't believe it. They want some fancy stock pick, some complicated crypto strategy, some secret loophole. But the real secret, the one that nobody wants to hear, is this. You're probably addicted to comfort, and most of you don't even realize how badly it is slowly, surely ruining you. Think about it. Most people don't completely trash their lives because of one massive, catastrophic mistake. Nah, that is not how it works. It is usually death by 1,000 paper cuts. They ruin it because they get too comfortable. They settle into a routine that feels nice, feels safe, and that, my friends, is exactly what makes comfort so incredibly dangerous. Because it doesn't feel dangerous, right? It feels warm, it feels cozy, it feels like a warm blanket on a cold day. It feels nice, it feels safe, it feels totally, completely normal, sleeping in until noon, totally harmless, right? Scrolling through endless TikToks for 3 hours straight. What is the big deal? Putting off that important task until tomorrow. Because hey, there is always tomorrow. It all feels so harmless, so innocent, but here is the kicker. When you do that day after day after day, comfort stops being a brief period of rest, a well-deserved break. It slowly, insidiously becomes your entire life. And I swear to God, that is where so many people get absolutely trapped. Because when people hear the word comfort, they imagine something small, something manageable. They imagine relaxing on a Sunday afternoon, taking a break after a long week, having an easy day, maybe chilling with a movie, but that is not the real problem. That is not what I'm talking about here. The real problem, the true danger, is when your entire existence starts to revolve around avoiding anything hard, anything uncomfortable, anything boring, anything that takes genuine effort, anything that doesn't give you that instant hit of dopamine, that immediate pleasure. That, my friends, is when comfort stops being a friend and starts to actively, ruthlessly destroy you. Because let me drop a truth bomb on you, almost everything that is truly good for you, almost everything that will actually move the needle in your life, it feels incredibly uncomfortable at first. Learning a new skill, like coding, or a new language, or even how to invest properly, that is uncomfortable as hell. Working out when your body just wants to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, that is uncomfortable. Studying for that exam, digging into those complex financial reports, that is uncomfortable. Starting something completely new, launching that side hustle, having those tough conversations, that is really uncomfortable. Hell, even just focusing for more than 10 minutes straight in this age of constant distraction, that is uncomfortable for a lot of people now. And instead of pushing through that initial feeling of unease, that slight discomfort, most people, they instantly run back to what feels easy, what feels familiar. They grab their phone, they open Instagram, they distract themselves with meaningless content. They tell themselves, oh, I'll do it later, I'll get to it tomorrow. And you know what? That later, that tomorrow, it never, ever comes. That, my friends, is the truly scary part. Comfort has this insidious way of making you feel like everything is just fine, like you're totally okay, when in reality, you are actively, unequivocally wasting your precious life. You feel busy, constantly scrolling, constantly consuming, but you're not actually doing anything of substance. You feel tired, mentally drained, but you haven't actually done anything hard, anything challenging. You feel like you desperately need a rest. But what you actually need, my friend, is a good dose of discipline. And yeah, I know, that sounds harsh. It sounds like I'm being a bit of a jerk. But seriously, don't you notice how a vast majority of people actually live their lives? The very second life throws even a tiny little bit of difficulty their way, they immediately escape. They dive headfirst into their phones, into their video games, into excessive food, into endless videos, into a mountain of excuses, into anything, literally anything that lets them avoid sitting in that moment of discomfort, that feeling of unease, and then they have the audacity to wonder why they feel so stuck, why their life isn't going anywhere. It is because, and write this down, growth and comfort, they do not. I repeat, do not live in the same damn place. You can have one, or you can spend your entire life chasing the other, but you can't have both simultaneously. Now, obviously, I'm not some crazy person saying you should never relax, that you should never take a break. That is absolutely not the point here. This isn't about transforming yourself into some soulless, perfect robot that works 18 hours a day and never enjoys life. No, no. This is about what truly controls you, because if you can only bring yourself to do things that feel easy, that feel effortless, then, let me tell you, comfort owns you, it has its hooks in you, and that, my friends, is a truly terrible, suffocating way to live. Because let's be real, life is never going to always feel easy. That is a childish fantasy. There will be boring days. There will be incredibly hard days. There will be stress. There will be failure. There will be immense pressure. There will be moments where you feel absolutely zero motivation. And if your entire life, every single habit you've built, has trained you to run screaming from discomfort, you will absolutely, unequivocally, fold the very second real life actually hits you. And trust me, it will hit you hard. That is precisely why this entire discussion matters so much, especially when you're young, because the habits you are building right now. Today, this very second, they are actively teaching your brain how to live, how to respond to challenges. If you keep choosing the path of least resistance, if you keep choosing easy, then easy, my friend, becomes your identity. It becomes who you are. You become the kind of person who constantly avoids, the kind of person who perpetually delays, the kind of person who quits the second things stop feeling good, the second a challenge appears. And the most insidious part is that this happens so slowly, so gradually, that a lot of people don't even notice it is happening. They don't wake up one morning and consciously decide, hey, I think I'll become weak and ineffective today. No, they just spend years, literal years, making countless small choices, choosing comfort over effort, comfort over discipline, comfort over actual meaningful growth. And after a while, they can't even handle basic difficulty anymore. Their attention span is completely shot. Their patience is gone. Their work ethic has evaporated, not because they were born that way, not because they're inherently flawed, but because they actively, painstakingly trained themselves to live that way. That is what comfort does to you if you allow it to take over, if you let it run rampant in your life. It makes you feel softer, weaker, more fragile every single day. And the absolute worst part, the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear, is this. The world, my friends, will not care. The world is not going to lower the price of success. It is not going to make things easier, just because you got too accustomed to living an easy life. It is still going to relentlessly reward the people who can focus, who can stay consistent, who can do the hard things, the uncomfortable things, even when they absolutely do not feel like doing them. That is the cold, hard reality, and deep down. Most people watching this right now, you probably already know if this video is about you, because deep down, in your gut, you can feel it, you know it. You know exactly when you've been hiding in the warm embrace of comfort. You know when you've been actively avoiding what truly needs to be done. You know when your entire daily routine is built around chasing cheap dopamine hits and easy distractions. The real tragedy is that most people won't change. They'll listen to this, they'll nod their heads, they'll agree with every single word I'm saying, and then, 5 minutes later, they'll go right back into the same old self-sabotaging habits. Because comfort, my friends, is incredibly addictive. That is the whole damn point. It pulls you in slowly, gently, like a tractor beam you barely notice. It makes excuses sound perfectly reasonable, perfectly logical. It makes weakness feel totally normal, totally acceptable. And if you're not careful, if you don't snap out of it, you will waste years, literal years of your precious life without even realizing it is slipping away. So no, comfort is not always harmless. It is not always your friend. Sometimes, more often than not, comfort is the exact damn thing holding your entire life back. Sometimes the real reason you feel so stuck, so stagnant, is not because life is unfair. It is not because you're unlucky. It is because you got far too used to living life in easy mode. And if that resonates with you, if that truth stings a little, then the fix, my friend, is also simple. Not easy, remember that. But simple. Start doing things that make you uncomfortable. Intentionally seek them out. Wake up when you said you would. Even if your bed feels like a cloud made of marshmallows, do the work. Even when you absolutely do not feel like doing it. Even when every fiber of your being resists, stay focused a little longer. Push past that initial urge to grab your phone. Stop escaping every single time life feels even a little bit hard, because the longer you stay addicted to comfort, the weaker you will inevitably become. And one day, you're going to look back at your life, a life that feels unfulfilled, and you'll realize you didn't lose to some massive external enemy, some big, bad villain. You lost to a life that felt far too easy, a life of endless comfort. You lost to the siren song of the snooze button, to the endless scroll, to the I'll do it later mantra. And that, my friends, is a tragedy, a silent, personal tragedy that plays out in millions of lives every single day. But here's the good news. You're watching this. You're here, which means you're not completely gone. You have a choice right now, in this very moment. You can choose to stay on that comfortable, well-worn path, the one that leads to stagnation, to regret. Or you can choose to make a change, to embrace the uncomfortable, to challenge yourself, to rebuild your discipline, your focus, your work ethic. It is not about being perfect. It is about making progress. One uncomfortable step at a time. Think about it this way. Every time you choose the harder path, the slightly more challenging option, you're not just doing that one thing, you're actually training your brain. You're rewiring your neural pathways, telling your subconscious, Hey, we can handle this. We're strong. Every time you resist the urge to scroll and instead pick up that book, that is a win. Every time you get out of bed when your alarm goes off, instead of hitting snooze, that is a victory. Every time you tackle that daunting task, even when you'd rather procrastinate, that is building mental toughness. And guess what happens when you start racking up these small wins? You build momentum, you build confidence, you build a new identity, an identity of someone who faces challenges head on, someone who doesn't shy away from discomfort, someone who understands that true growth, true success, lives just outside the edges of their comfort zone. And let's be real about the financial implications of this comfort addiction. Every unnecessary subscription you keep, because it is easy to forget about. Every impulsive purchase, because it gives you a fleeting moment of joy. Every high-fee investment product you stick with, because switching feels like too much work. Every single one of those decisions, born out of a desire for comfort and ease, is literally taking money out of your future self's pocket. It is like you're personally firing a bunch of tiny employees who could be working for you, building your wealth. Instead, you're sending them home with pay because you'd rather not deal with the discomfort of managing them. It is absurd when you put it like that, isn't it? My philosophy has always been about extreme minimalism in finance, extreme patience, and brutally anti-intuitive moves. I hate excessive trading. I despise high fees, and I absolutely can't stand all the pompous financial jargon, because it is all designed to make things seem more complicated than they are, to keep you comfortable with not understanding. And that comfort, that lack of understanding, is what allows others to pick your pockets. So what is the mathematical cost of your comfort? Let's say you waste 3 hours a day on mindless scrolling, just 3 hours over a year. That is over 1,000 hours. Think about that. 1,000 hours you could have spent learning a high-income skill, starting that side hustle, exercising, reading, building meaningful relationships. What if those 1,000 hours could have, over time, increased your income by just $10,000 a year? What if you invested that $10,000 annually for 30 years at a modest 7% return? You're talking about over $1 million. $1 million. Gone. Because you chose comfort over effort, because you chose the instant gratification of the scroll over the delayed gratification of building something real. That is the real price of comfort. It is not just wasted time. It is lost opportunity. It is a missed future. It is the life you could have lived, slipping through your fingers. And the psychology of it is even more fascinating. Our brains are hardwired for efficiency, for conserving energy. So, when you constantly choose the easy path, your brain learns that. It reinforces those pathways. It literally becomes easier for you to be lazy, to procrastinate, to avoid discomfort.